Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another Long Island Wargaming Battle Report. Orcs and Goblins versus Skaven, and this is Game 3 of a series between me and Chris. We're using our 2009 Skaven book and our 2011 Orcs and Goblins book. We did roll for our battle, and we got a pitched battle. And here's our terrain. We've got 2 forests, 3 buildings, and over there is a magic circle. Alright, so for the Skaven side, I brought a bunch of heroes. I have Grey Seer there to the left on Screaming Bell. I gave him a scroll and a scalm. I have a Lord on Bonebreaker. He was armed with a halberd. And then I had 6 chieftains. They all had halberds. One of them was the BSB, and he had the banner that gave the unit fire attacks in case my opponent had any trells. And then one of them did have the Skaven brew. I also had, you can see behind the chieftains, I have a level 1 plague priest with a flail, and then I have 2 engineers, and one of the engineers was armed with a doom rocket. So I essentially took my list from game 2 and dropped the rat ogres and the giant rat unit, and then took the slaves, split them into 2 units instead of 1, and then made some room for the extra heroes and a doom wheel and a hell pit abomination. Alright, so for my deployment, you could see on the right there, I took the doom wheel, and then I have the 50 slaves, 2 of those rat darts, those 5 giant rats and a packmaster, and then now I've got pretty much my hammer unit. I have in this unit 7 heroes. I got the Screaming Bell with the Grey Seer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chieftains, one of them being the BSB, the other one being the one with the Skaven brew. And then I've got the Lord on the Bonebreaker. Now, why I did this is I knew they were going to be either fighting the Savage Orcs or the Black Orcs. So I front out, the entire front service is hero. So he's going to have to indirectly direct his attacks. It's going to be toughness 4. And it's just going to be harder for him to kill the unit, no matter what it is that's charging them. And then having 3 attacks up front with the halberds at a higher weapon skill, it's 3s to hit, and then going to be 3s to wound with strength 5. It's just all around better with the Skaven, because the clan rats aren't really that great. And my last game, they got grinded down, so I wanted to have some better fighty power in the front. So this was kind of a cheesy move, I think, but I really needed to do it in order to take out some of those bigger orc horde units. And then I had an attached Doom Flare, then the Plague Monks, Hell Pit Abomination, another set of 50 slaves. In there is one of the chieftains and the engineer with a Doom Rocket, another Rat Dart, and then I've got, I think it was 25 clan rats with an attached poison wind mortar. And I just had some leftover points. Not really leftover. I needed them to fill the core requirement. But they were just an extra unit to hang out on the flank. Or if I wanted to put my BSB as in like a bunker unit, I could have done that. But really, he didn't have anything over on his flank. And then I'll pretty much go over his deployment. From left to right, he had some war machines, 2 units of fast cavalry, the Arachnarok Spider, the horde of Black Orcs, some more siege weapons, a boar chariot, 6 trolls, a bunker unit behind, the Savage Orc Biggin unit, night goblins, some more war machines, and then 2 chariots. That chariot all the way to the right there is a wolf chariot, and then there's a boar chariot there too. And then for Chris's heroes, he had a night goblin shaman, and then this cool BSB night goblin, I think that's from Forge World, and then a lord orc and a war boss, that is, and then a level 4 shaman. For my magic, I got, let's see, what did I write down? My Grey Seer got the 13th spell, Cloud of Corruption, Wither, and Pestilent Breath. His Shaman got Foot of Gork, Hand of Gork, Here We Go, and Fist of Gork. And then the Goblin Shaman got Vindictive Glare and Bad Moon. Alright, so for turn 1, Skaven did get the first turn, and I did shuffle everything up a little bit there. The Doom Wheel was headed straight for the Arachnarch Spider because the Warp Lightning shots that it does, it's 3 shots at an artillery dice strength, d6 multiple wounds. It's the perfect lineup to try to take out that spider. I didn't shuffle up the slaves too far. I want to be able to protect my flank. They'll be stubborn with whatever they fight because they've got so many ranks, but they're so easy to kill and they put no offensive fight forward towards anything. So they're just there to get in the way. With magic, Winds of Magic, so I roll a 9, which is nice. The bell decides to move itself forward 6 inches, which really wasn't desirable, but whatever. I decide to use 5 dice on Plague. I rolled a 17 with Irresistible Force. So I did it on the Savage Orcs. 14 Savage Orcs die, which is great. The miscast, however, isn't the end of the world. It is the big. I did get the big template strength 10 hit, but when you place it right over the center of the Screaming Bell, you really don't end up hitting too many guys. 14 clan rats die, so I mean it sounds like a lot of guys, but that big template can cover a huge amount of bases for that size unit. I do some wounds to each of my heroes, but I mean it's really not the end of the world. No one actually dies in regards to the front heroes. I can care less about a couple of the clan rats that die. And then actually I want to take a step back. The clan rats, that unit had the Skaven brew. I rolled a 1, which sucks. I could have done with any of the other results, but I rolled a 1, so a bunch of my guys die before the game even starts, so that was a waste of 50 points. And then I believe I run out of dice, or I don't really do anything else that's that effective. With shooting, I do fire the Doom Rocket from that slave unit all the way to the right side of my battlefield at the Night Goblins, because I feel like the big template can cover a lot of them. This is the first time I've ever rolled a misfire with the Doom Rocket. You have to roll 3 ones, I think it is, either 3 or 4 ones for it to misfire. I rolled a misfire, and it goes in a random direction, and it ended up hitting my own Plague Monks or Clan Rats, so I ended up killing more of my guys. So at this point, both the Skaven Brew and the Doom Rocket were now a waste of 80 points because they both screwed me. So I felt a little bad about that, but at the end of the day, killing 14 Savage Orcs, totally worth it. So for Orc turn 1, animosity checks, Chris usually does pretty well, but he had some bad luck here. His Savage Orcs failed his animosity test, and they are forced to charge, which is going to end up being the Clan Rats. Now, the matchups that Chris was originally looking for was Savage Orcs, as you can see, up against the Clan Rats. Up against these Plague Monks, and then the Black Orcs up against the Clan Rats. This way he can kind of shift his line down and then have the Spider come and wrap around or do some nasty, funny business. But the Savage Orcs decide they're going to charge the Clan Rats, which really puts Chris in a tight position. So he decides to do as much support as possible, and he sends in the Trolls and the Chariot. This way he can get as much surface area with those 2 units on the Clan Rats, and then have the Savage Orcs overhang. This way they won't get a flank charge by the Plague Monks, and hopefully end up fighting the Plague Monks at some point anyway, if they were to overrun. Actually, I mean, they probably wouldn't overrun because the Clan Rats are unbreakable as long as the Screaming Bell is alive. But it's going to be an interesting fight because the Savage Orcs are down 14 guys already. The Trolls end up failing, so just the Chariot and the Savage Orcs make it in. For the rest of Chris's movement, he just did a little shuffling here and there. He did have some clever placement with his fast cavalry and the Arachnarch Spider. As you can see, it's really hard for me to hit the Spider with the Doom Wheel. I mean, I'd have to pivot from the center of the model, which means I really can't clip it the back of the Spider. But if I really tried to, I could clip pretty much clip the fast cavalry, flank charge them, but the way he's lined it up right there, you can see if I overrun, then he's just going to flank charge me and destroy me. So it's really not a great idea for me to even deal with either fast cavalry units or the spider. So I'll probably next turn just have him, just go as close as possible. So hopefully the spider's the closest unit so I could shoot at it, but we'll see what happens. During Winds of Magic, Chris rolls a 10. He gets Irresistible Force on Curse of the Bad Moon, which is that vortex, and it goes straight through the Plague Monks and kills about 20 of them, which is pretty devastating. For close combat, it's pretty much just no fun for Chris. The Chariot, since it does its impact hits distributed as shooting, didn't have to worry about it hitting my heroes in the front. And then the Bonebreaker, the Lord, the Rat Ogre on the Bell, the Grey Seer, and then the rest of the heroes just totally wipe out the Savage Orcs. Chris is able to do a couple wounds here and there. I think he knocks out an entire Chieftain, which comes out to essentially 48 victory points. So, what Chris really had to do was just kill as many heroes as possible so that maybe next turn he can hit the unit, or just, since the front rank is worth victory points in itself, because each hero that's dead, it's I believe a 45-point Chieftain with a 3-point or 2-point Halberd. It's pretty cheap for me to get those guys, but they're worth essentially 50 victory points for him for each one he kills. I believe he also knocks out the Lord. The Lord's just dead, which I'm not surprised. I mean, I didn't over-equip him. He was just there for surface area. To be completely honest, the Bonebreaker is where all the attacks are. So the Lord drops, a hero drops, but I just deal so much damage to him that he does end up losing combat. Flees all the way through to the end of the board. I don't overrun at all that far. I think I only rolled 2 inches, believe it or not, and he rolled like a 12 or something crazy. And then essentially the Chariot flees also. I don't catch it, but it's great because just the way that's all lined up, the Chariot is in the way of the Black Orc. So even though I get to charge next turn, it's going to be another turn before he can, charge or, do anything, because that fleeing Chariot. I mean, he could Hand of Gork them somewhere, but still he's not getting a charge off. Alright, so for Skaven turn 2, you can see that the Skaven are in a pretty good position. I do a handful of charges. The slaves and the Rat Dart there charge the fast cavalry. The fast cavalry do end up fleeing, so they redirect to take on the spider, which will probably be pretty nasty. The Grey Seer unit with the clan rats is going up against the trolls, which is great because I have that fire banner. At the time, Chris didn't even realize that, which is going to be pretty nasty for him. The Plague Monks against the Night Goblins, and then that clan rat unit against the that Chariot. It's a long shot. I figured I'd go for it. I needed a 9. And in case you watch any of our other battle reports, usually we drop the dice down with the distance that needs to be rolled in order for a successful charge. So you can see that these charges here automatically make it because they're 7 inches or less, which means they're going to make it. The Plague Monks needed a 7, and I actually failed that charge. So on to Magic. I go for... well, the bell immediately gets to be wrong, so I get Scorch. So I scorch the Night Goblin unit. I would have liked to have done it on the Trolls, but we were in combat. And then I go for Plague on the Black Orcs. And Chris was up in the air about this because the Magic Circle was there, which gave him the magic res he needed to, survive, but he didn't know what I was going to do with any of my other dice. But he just decided to scroll it instead. This way he didn't worry about me passing along Plague to another unit and having it never end and just kill all of his guys. And then I think I forgot about the Vortex, so I didn't have enough dice to dispel it. I might have had only 1 or 2. But the Vortex kept going, but it just goes nowhere important, so it just goes flying backwards towards my table edge, which I'm not too upset about. And then during combat, I pretty much destroy the trolls, and then I overrun into the Night Goblin bunker unit that was behind them. And then the spider combat, it looks like 5, 10, he killed 11 guys, which, whatever. I've got I think he actually tried to pincer attack the engineer, but actually missed, which sucks because now I've got the leadership again, which, I mean, not necessary right now because I'm still within 18 inches of the Screaming Bell, so I've got 3 ranks, leadership 7, so I was rolling on 10s with a reroll, so it wasn't the end of the world, but he did kill a bunch of guys there. And that was pretty much Skaven turn 2. Alright, so for Orcs and Goblins turn 2, Chris wasn't feeling too great at this point. I mean, the loss of the Savage Orcs was a huge hit. He pretty much had no control over that. If he had control of the lineup where the units were going to go, it would have been a different game. But, I mean, Savage Orcs, they rally, but they're at the back of the table edge, which really isn't going to help them right now. But anyway, for Chris's charges, Wolf Riders do a flank charge on the slaves. And then the Night Goblins and the Boar Chariot charge the Plague Monks. And then the Wolf Chariot flank charges the Hellpit Abomination. So I was kind of nervous about that because, I mean, I know I've got regen and whatnot, but impact hits are just, not fun to deal with. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that was all of his charges. For magic, Chris, what did he do? He 6-diced Hand of Gork or Mork or whatever. I think they're all Gork Hand. Just to place his Black Orc somewhere that's a little bit more desirable. Now, I mean, I still overran into that unit, so odds are I'm going to kill it this turn. But he figured if there's any chance they stayed or I didn't kill them, a rear charge is exactly what he needed. So that's why he did that. But even if I destroy that bunker unit and I reformed to face him, he'd be ready to attack. The magical vortex just goes right off the table edge, which, whatever. And then the fast cavalry. Chris always loves to do these cute things with his fast cavalry. So I think with this, what he was just doing was, in case I decided to turn around, I can't do it to hit the spider, but if I do it to hit the Wolf Riders, that would just be one less turn. It would take one more turn for me to get to the spider. So I don't know. He's usually pretty clever with the fast cavalry. I mean, sometimes I'm like, what's going on? But then when I look at it later, I guess it actually makes a lot of sense to do it that way. So, as you can see, the spider completely destroys the slaves. But, oh well. So, I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to get chopped up. The Plague Monks, they activate their Plague Banner, which is, of course, a very cheesy banner, but you gotta bring it. And I pretty much wreck the Night Goblins and the Chariot. And I believe overrun both of them after they flee. So it was pretty nasty, pretty bad luck on Chris's behalf. So, and then I do finish off the BSB and the remaining Night Goblins. So I do combat reform or whatever. I just reform them to face the Black Orcs. Alright, so Skaven turn 3 was actually kind of a short turn because I charged the Black Orcs, and the Grey Seer gets a Wither on the Black Orcs, so now they're toughness 3. And I mean, at that point, I was just able to kill a crap load of them, and we just kind of wiped the game at that point. And Chris gave me the victory because it was going to be really hard for him to come back, and I just had so much crap still in the battlefield. I mean, essentially we decided that this game was really lost just based on the fact that the Savage Orcs, just went flying forward, and Chris had no control over them. But I mean, the lesson that we both learned here is with your frenzied troops, if you need the most control of them, like I've learned with my Skull Crushers and sometimes my Plague Monks, you gotta put something in front of them to prevent them from just running off. But even so, frenzy aside, when animosity doesn't go your way, I mean, what are you gonna do? So, but we decided Chris asked for a rematch, so even though Skaven win the best of 3, we are going to do another 3,000 point game with maybe similar lists just to see how it pans out, because this game was, I mean, kind of a wash. I mean, I feel like I constructed a good list to take on what Chris usually brings, which are those big nasty orc hordes. Usually my clan rats usually aren't able to deal too much with them, and I don't like bringing storm vermin because even though they're only 7 points, they are a lot of points compared to the other rats, where, I mean, I'm not going to get any use of the heavy armor because I'm getting hits with chapas, and I mean, the halberds are great and all, but I just feel like I'd rather have twice as many rats down. But yeah, so that was 3,000 points, Orcs and Goblins versus Skaven, victory to the Skaven, and that's the game 3 of our best of 3. And stay tuned for a 3,000 point rematch versus myself and Chris. 3,000 points again. And if you liked the video or you have any comments or you see anything that was played out incorrectly, you know, feel free to please leave a comment and let us know what's going on. But like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.